I aim to smash you out of existence, to drive your cursed face from my memories forever!
Enough talk!
Yes! Let this be our final battle!
Yup, it's another big battle, which means it's also time for me to throw the Overthinker some of your mailbag questions. I've told him he should probably try to do these things separately, and maybe concentrate on not getting murdered during these fights, but what do I know? Here we go. Jack Slack asks, why are so many video games commentaries on video gaming? See Metal Gear Solid series, Shadow of the Colossus, Far Cry 2. Why don't more games try to tackle discussions on life?
Gaming is still a young medium, and part of growing up as a medium or as a person is that you first have to learn to understand and comment on yourself before you can understand and comment on other things. Eventually, I'm sure that we'll have games that can step up and say something bigger about the broader human condition, but first they probably do have to go through this period of self-reflection, much like the movies did, where you had a lot of 70s films by future master filmmakers like Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Brian De Palma, Woody Allen, that were very much commentaries on the making of movies and the culture of movies, and then they went on to make films that were about bigger and more important issues.
Bookworm Otaku asks, who's our favorite bunny cop's favorite literary rabbit hero?
Well, I am required to give the obligatory tip of the hat to the collected works of Beatrix Potter. I am a more sequential art type of guy, so my own personal reading taste would probably lead to a tie between Usagi Yojimbo and Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew.
Canechild asks, do you honestly think independent gaming is going to bring on the next big surprise in hardware like Nintendo did with the Wii?
Hardware? Probably not. Hardware is expensive and requires too much infrastructure for it to be something to be viable on an independent frame at this time. What's going to need to happen first is a viable Steam-style platform, though much bigger and more inclusive than Steam, to come out and really give indie publishing the push that it needs, and for enterprising console manufacturers outside of the big three to step up to the plate and make machines that will be compatible with it. However, on the other hand, the increasing power of Steam itself and the rise of tablet gaming may make this all a moot point.
Hayamo asks, I know you're mostly a fan of retro games, but do you feel like a lot of people who cherish the retro games a bit unreasonable?
Hey, NecroThinker, you want to field that one?
The third-person shooter has never improved on the corridor levels from Contra.
So, yes, would be the answer to your question.
Battleflag asks, how much do you feel that the massive decline / near extinction of the video game rental market has contributed to this creative stagnation and/or more of the same development trappings?
Huge and tragic. The lack of a proper rental apparatus outside of the GameFly model is leading to creative stagnation by discouraging people from trying new games because they are afraid of paying the full price, thus encouraging developers to stick with the franchise and sequels only model, which is keeping new ideas out of the marketplace. I don't know how else to say it. It is a vicious cycle, and it is absolutely killing us.
Childish Hero asks, what do you think needs to be done for the mass public to accept innovative ideas?
Well, first and foremost, the idea actually has to be innovative, not just outlandish or offbeat for outlandish or offbeat's sake. We've had enough of that. Secondly, you need to figure out how to inform people that these products are actually coming out. That's the problem here. Video game companies have spent so long only selling to people who've already been playing video games their whole lives, they don't know how to sell to anyone else.
The Freckled One asks, do you think it would be wise for Nintendo, being the company with the biggest child audience and hostile free reputation, to exclude online talk in the Wii U in order to stop the next Smash Bros. Game from turning into another Call of Duty board?
No. Look, removing a feature that people like to prevent people from possibly abusing it is only going to punish the people who use it well. I don't actually know how you solve the problem of people being assholes online, other than having Nintendo, say, buy up like a Chinese gold farming warehouse and just deputize all the slave labor as forum moderators or whatnot. But otherwise, it's a problem that's only going to be solved when the users turn around and police themselves. You can't rely on moderators and admins to keep assholes from being assholes. You have to shame assholes so that they're not welcome. And I don't really know how anyone fixes that problem, and it's going to be kind of interesting but ultimately futile to watch Nintendo try.
Psychonaut asks, what do you think of Fez not selling all that well despite being, in my opinion, awesome? Do you think Phil Fish and his comments on Japanese games affected its sales?
Nobody cares what Phil Fish thinks about Japanese games. I mean, look, I really liked Fez. I mean, Fez was terrific. It just wasn't, like, terrific enough to justify a lot of the build-up or the wait. Don't get me wrong, it was a good game, but I think part of the reason that Fez really kind of failed to break through like a lot of other indie games did is that, quite frankly, by then, we'd had more than enough kind of quirky platformers built around an interesting revised mechanic with this kind of melancholy, moody feel. I mean, I'm sorry guys, but if you already played through Cave Story and Braid, did Fez really have that much original to offer you? It's a good game, it was just a few years late to become another big phenomenon.
Madrigal asks, hey Bob, I've always been curious, what's up with your dislike of Sony? The Overthinker looks a bit preoccupied at the moment, but we've talked about this very subject many times, so allow me to field this one. It's not dislike of Sony so much as dislike of arrogance. Obviously, no gaming company is run by saints, but the fact that Sony came striding into Generation 7 essentially bragging how dominant the PS3 was going to be, basically because of how much money they had spent and how well they'd done last time, rubbed both of us the wrong way, especially when there was so little actual to blow their horn about. Yeah, Nintendo, for example, was arrogant as hell once the Wii's Hail Mary pass paid off, but you're supposed to brag after you do something risky and it pays off. Sony was bragging about how their upscaled PS2 was going to be the shit just because, so it was a little bit satisfying to see them struggle at first. Rafush asks, hey Bob, when are you going to give us an edited version of the Game OverThinker without the stupid embarrassing story? You know, just with the overthinking part.
When I decide I'd get more enjoyment out of putting out an inferior product, probably.
That guy Andrew asks, which game console do you consider to be the best of all time?
In terms of personal preference, I would probably say the SNES, though I firmly believe that if the Dreamcast had been allowed to survive, it would have gone on to become the greatest console ever. Now, on the other hand, if we're talking about consoles in terms of a console with multiple generations, if that can be included in the discussion, then I don't know how anything could be the winner other than the Game Boy, which had the best software library in history just by virtue of how long it hung on through its backwards compatibility. There's just no comparison there.
Idun asks, what Nintendo franchise do you think is due for a revival? Mine is Star Tropics.
Wow, you know, I was probably just gonna say like Balloon Fight or Devil World, but screw that, man. New Star Tropics would be awesome. Maybe this time it could be like slightly less impossible to beat, though. Slightly.
DD Russian Ninja asks, if someone offered to set up any one coin-op video game arcade cabinet in your home, which would it be?
Beastbusters.
Fire Rush asks, I have to ask, who is Bunnyface played by? Is he your pet rabbit, your brother's or sister's pet rabbit? Just some stock footage you took once and keep recycling? I'm curious to know what the bunny actor's name is or if he or she has one.
Pet, actor, citizen, I will have you know that I am an officer at a Boston Police Department, and for the last time, the name is Commissioner John Bonifaz.
Okay. Straight answer, Commissioner Bunnyface is played by Dylan, who is a pet rabbit owned by my brother and his girlfriend. We're working on getting a few new angles of his footage just to change it up a bit, and figuring out a few ways to incorporate him into other parts of the show, obviously with Dylan's safety and comfort as priority number one.
Infamous LP asks, if you weren't doing any of your current internet shows, then what job would you be doing now?
Probably one of the jobs I was doing before this.
Jawbreaker Alumni asks, do you think that Nintendo putting their games on iPads or smartphones would be a good or a bad idea?
Oh, that would be a great idea. It's just not going to happen anytime soon. The future is cross-platform multimedia gaming. What we need is the emergence of a Steam-style platform for digital distribution and a rise of independently produced consoles that would be able to run such a thing. And that's just not going to happen anytime soon because certain companies are too wedded to that kind of business model, especially Nintendo, who is going to be dragged out of the console market. But yes, theoretically, that's a good idea.
Carsick Donut asks, couldn't the Game OverThinker save the NecroThinker by showing him some of the latest Sonic games that were actually pretty good?
In case you haven't noticed, he's trying to kill me with a sword. I think we're kind of past that now. I'm unarmed, NecroThinker. We can talk about this. Don't do anything rash. I didn't want it to end this way, NecroThinker, but you forced my hand.
Hooray! That worked for some reason!
Overthinker? RetroThinker. Is it you? What happened? Where am I? Do you remember anything? I don't remember anything. No, wait. There was an island and...
Rise!
Oh God. What did I do? RetroThinker, you gotta believe me. It wasn't me. It was him. I wasn't myself. He gave me the stone and...
He must mean this stone, sir. It's just like the other two, except this one is full of earth magic. That explains how NecroThinker was able to raise things that were dead and buried. Kind of.
It was him. It wasn't me. It was the NecroThinker.
I don't know, sir. I'm getting a residual evil vibe off this thing for sure, but there's no way of telling whether the NecroThinker manifested more from it or from RetroThinker's own subconscious.
I believe him. Ivan, take RetroThinker to the safe house.
You mean your brother's apartment?
Take him to the safe house.
So you saved our bacon again, huh, kid?
Uh-huh.
And I can inform the Senator that the Necro Tower has been completely destroyed?
Yes.
And you say the video zombies vanished once their master was neutralized?
That is what happened, yes.
And the NecroThinker?
The NecroThinker is gone.
That's all of it? He's gone?
The NecroThinker is gone, Commissioner.
Understand, Mr. Overthinker. It's very important that you and this department stay on the same page, that we trust each other.
I understand.
You're taking a big risk not telling the rabbit the whole truth. About RetroThinker, I mean.
I know. Fire, water, earth.
You realize this pattern almost certainly suggests there's at least one more of these things out there, right?
I know. What the hell are you?